Just how far will the woke left go to prove its allegiance to diversity and tolerance? I say look no further than Joe Biden's campaign to sacrifice girls' and women's sports at the altar of transgender rights. You may have already heard about the new White House executive order that could very well spell the end of girls' sports. It is now a protected federal civil right for biological boys and men to compete against biological girls and women. Let's look at the actual text. The January 20th, 2021 presidential action unilaterally declares that, quote, children should be able to learn without worrying about whether they will be denied access to the restroom, the locker room, or school sports. The Biden White House confirmed to USA Today in a statement that the order means that transgender girls and women must be allowed to compete on female teams under the federal Title IX law. When she was asked directly whether the order would tie federal funding to compliance with the mandate, slippery White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki evaded the question with obtuse, politically correct platitudes. I'm sure she'll circle back.
Does the president have a message for local school officials on dealing with these kind of disputes that are already starting to arise between trans girls who are competing and cis girls and a level playing field, particularly in high school sports when it leads to college scholarships? Is there any kind of messaging or clarification that the White House wants to give on the executive order?
I would just say that the president's belief is that trans rights are human rights, and that's why he signed that executive order. And in terms of the determinations by universities and colleges, I would certainly defer to them.
Look, you can talk about trans rights in the abstract until you're blue in the face. But the real-world impact on aspiring youth athletes who are biological females simply cannot be sugar-coated. It is beyond ridiculous to see hulking high school boys who have gone through puberty pretending that they belong on the same track or the same playing field or wrestling mat with girls who are half their size. I don't care what these young men identify as. What I identify with my own eyes is a complete farce and injustice. Just watch it for yourselves.
Kyle Gabinelli.
Senator Rand Paul is one of the few outspoken conservatives in D.C. calling out these absurdities. He pressed Joe Biden's Education Secretary nominee Miguel Cardona on the issue. And just like Press Secretary Jen Psaki, this Cardona fellow responded with mealy-mouthed platitudes and evasion, basically throwing biological girls and women under the bus.
Does it bother you that like the top 20% of boys running in track meets beat all of the girls in the state, and that it, would be, completely destroy girls' athletics? The girls are being pushed out. They don't make the finals in the state meet. They don't get college scholarships, that it's really detrimental to girls' sports. Do you worry about having boys running girls' track meets?
I recognize and appreciate the concerns and the frustrations that are expressed. I've, as Commissioner of Education, have had conversations with families who have felt the way you just described it, and families of students who are transgender.
You're okay then with boys competing with girls?
Respectfully, Senator, I think I answered the question. I believe schools should offer the opportunity for students to engage in extracurricular activities, even if they're transgender. I think that's their right.
All right. Well, a lot of us think that that's bizarre, not very fair. I come from a family that has a lot of girls who have competed in college athletics, have been state champions, and frankly, some boy that's 6'2" competing against my 5'4" niece doesn't sound very fair.
Exactly. And the effect on girls has been devastating. One brave young Arizona athlete testified at a state house hearing last year about the unfair advantage that a biological male gave to a competing team of her fellow female softball athletes.
We stepped onto the field motivated to go in and play our hardest and to display how hard we'd trained. But that spirit of determination was quickly dampened with one of confusion and doubt when we discovered that our opponents were fielding a biological male who identified as a female. This male athlete was permitted to play on a girls' team because of an unfair AIA policy that allows students to join the team that is consistent with their gender identity. Our entire team's focus and motivation was affected as we grappled with the impact of this new player. Sure enough, our opposing team won. The boy gave them an edge, both physically and mentally, that we couldn't match. I had heard stories like this happening to other girls in other states, but I never expected it would happen at my school. Yet that is the new reality that countless female athletes like myself are facing every single day.
The organization called Save Women's Sports is fighting in court and in state legislatures to protect a level playing field. It's striking, isn't it, that most leading feminist and civil rights groups on the left are either silent or on the wrong side of this issue after women fought so hard in the 1970s to establish single-sex sports in the first place. Liberal women put Joe Biden into office, and now he's sabotaging athletic and scholarship opportunities for their daughters. Oops. Woke politics has consequences, and in the end, everybody loses. When we come back, Utah State Representative Kara Birkeland joins us to discuss her legislation to protect girls' sports.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.